Michael Patrick Shields is on the air.
Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Tuesday to you. Michael Patrick Shields, heard all across the state of Michigan. If we could bring that music up just a touch so we can get ourselves rolling here this morning, get everybody out of bed, get everybody excited about this new day. It's going to be an interesting day on this program. Kyle Malin will be with us from MERS News. He was there yesterday when both Governor Granholm and Governor-elect Snyder had a joint press conference. What was that like? We'll find out, and then we will speak with both of them. Governor Granholm and Governor-elect Rick Snyder will be with us this morning. Also, we're going to talk to the most conservative and the most liberal members of the Michigan House of Representatives based on how they voted last year. Secretary of State Terry Lynn Land will be with us, too. She is the outgoing Secretary of State. And we're also going to talk about business leaders for Michigan and their new role in the Rick Snyder administration. Outgoing Lieutenant Governor John Cherry will be with us, too. He's been offering some pretty colorful criticism on his way out of office, and he says he's never going to run for politics again. And Larry Olmsted will be with us. He's climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and apparently Martina Navratilova had a problem on Kilimanjaro the other day, had to be carried down. Surface streets and freeways are going to be slick again this morning because overnight temperatures were in the single digits. Winds were blowing snow over the roadways, and so lest you think that the bad weather is over, it's not. And there are still some schools closed because the school buses can't get around into certain neighborhoods because of the condition of the roads. Not that we had necessarily big snow overnight. It's just that those roads are sometimes impassable, especially in hilly situations, depending where you are. Along the lake shore and to the north and west, too, conditions have strained drivers' abilities, and county road commissions can't keep up. It's snow-packed ice, and that kind of turned roads from dry to black ice and eventually snow-packed. And a little bit of heat from the tires makes it very slippery, according to the Montcalm County Road Commission, and drivers don't know until it's too late. They are trying to put that salt and sand mixture, but that won't melt the ice when the temperature is below 20 degrees. So keep the seatbelt on, keep your hands on the wheel, and keep your wits about you. It's going to be tough going. The Morenci man accused of kidnapping his 3 young sons and perhaps killing them is going to be in Ohio court today for an extradition hearing. We'll see if maybe he will be coming back to Michigan. The first shipments of General Motors extended-range electric cars are hitting the road. Yesterday, 5 trucks carrying the Chevy Volt left the Detroit Hamtramck plant, heading to dealerships in California, Texas, New York City, and Washington, D.C. It's interesting because they're going to send some of those cars to Alaska, too, to see how they handle an extreme cold. Oh, why did they have to go to Alaska? They can just stay right here and learn all they want to about extreme cold. Rick Snyder has been taking people from the Engler administration for his new campaign. Doug Rothwell is chairman-designate of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Now, that's a board appointment that has to be approved in January. He will also remain the head of business leaders for Michigan, and he is part of Rick Snyder's transition team, Doug Rothwell, who's been on this program many times. Governor-elect Snyder is saying that they're going to sprint to accomplish incredible things in the first 6 months. That's kind of what President Obama said, didn't he? That they want to get a lot of things accomplished quickly. And we'll ask Governor-elect Snyder, to be proper about it, you know, what sort of dazzling things does he have in store for us? Michigan lawmakers are not quite done with their lame duck session after all. Both the House and the Senate are going to convene on Wednesday to tie up loose ends on legislation they didn't completely finish before hastily adjourning and declaring their 2-year session over. That was back on December 3rd. You'll remember we were the House went till 6:30 in the morning. The Senate went till 4:30. We thought they were done, but they're going to deal with legislation cracking down on human trafficking and a few other issues. And a lot of people we talked to yesterday in the state legislature said it's a dangerous time. What do they mean by that? They mean, well, people are trying to get legislation passed through for legacy purposes and things like that. The White House disagreeing with a court ruling yesterday on the new health care reform bill. It's a federal judge in Virginia struck down a key part of President Obama's new health care law. We'll be talking later this week with Andy Hetzel from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan about that topic. Gary Austin, if you were on a plane yesterday at Denver International Airport, you were delayed several hours.
What for?
There was a startling discovery found inside someone's luggage.
Uh-oh.
A guy attempted to check in for a flight to London on British Airways
Yeah.
with fireworks in his bag.
No, he should have known better.
Well, what was he thinking? So there was a 2-hour evacuation at the Denver International Airport. I mean, was it something sinister? And, could fireworks on an airplane cause trouble? I don't know.
With fireworks, well, a sight of a different kind going on right about now. Look, if you're driving, don't do this, of course. But if you happen to be outside, look up. There's a chance, if where you are, across our great state, if the skies are clear, you could be seeing quite a meteor shower. The Geminid shower is going on right about now at dawn or thereabouts.
Really?
Yep, that's what the folks at NASA are telling us. This is one of the biggies, and it's going to be quite the spectacular light show if where you happen to be if the skies are clear.
I don't think the sky's clear till May in Michigan, do they?
No,
yesterday
right.
was a clear day. It was
It
sunny
was.
and snowy, and so
Clear
there's a
and-
meteor shower
Clear
going
and cold,
on. Huh?
yes, going on. And according to the experts,
Amanda, could you go out there with the wireless microphone and see if you can see the meteor shower?
see
going
anything
on,
there.
please?
60 to 80 meteors an hour.
I wonder if Fox can
expected
point
to be
their
about 1 a
television
minute.
cameras up at the sky, because we have cameras on the Gillespie Group Stadium District building here. And I wonder if those cameras would pick up a meteor shower if you're watching. Otherwise, you're going to look with your eyes.
1 hour before sunrise. So we're at about that now, aren't we? Pretty
Yes.
darn close.
Yeah.
Pretty darn close. Yeah.
Well, we're going out there right now with Amanda. She's going to have the wireless microphone report for us in just a moment outside of our Gillespie Group storefront studio.
Yep.
It's a couple of very sad stories. Flint now has a very dubious distinction, doesn't it?
Boy, it sure does. 62 murders this year. And, well, this makes this year, 2010, the deadliest ever for the city of Flint. The latest victim, an adult male, was found shot to death near his car yesterday.
We will reach out to the mayor of Flint, Dane Walling, who's been on with us before. He says this is a long and difficult year for the city of Flint, the deadliest year in the history of the city. And over in Comstock Township, a car accident claimed the life of a 2-year-old girl and left her mother critically injured in Comstock Township. That's just east of Kalamazoo. 26-year-old Karen Fleckenstein lost control of her SUV on a pack of ice there on Sprinkle Road, slid into the southbound lane. Fleckenstein was 12 weeks pregnant, lost the baby. And I can't imagine, I see this story in the morning and it's like a punch in the stomach. And I don't even know the people. And I hesitate to report it because it's so sad. Yeah. But at the same time, it's a warning about traveling. I mean, can you imagine this mother of a 2-year-old girl, pregnant, 12 weeks, car accident? She's left alive. The 2-year-old is dead, and she loses the baby
in a flash, in an instant.
At Christmas time.
Yeah, it's just terrible.
It's unbearable to even talk about.
It shows how quickly life can slip away, and boy, the slippery streets. And you could be doing everything. This is what's really something about slippery roads, and we just can't stress this enough. I mean, you could be doing everything right. You could be going the speed limit. You could be going just you could be driving with everything in mind, knowing that the conditions are what they are. Yeah. And still, you just don't know, because if the guy in the other lane is careless, something happens or whatever, and they spin out, and we've seen the chain reaction.
And mind you, she was in an SUV, too,
yeah,
so, you would think that would be a safer vehicle.
We understand the driver of the truck that she hit was not seriously hurt. So
I had that happen to me one time in a Jeep Cherokee. I was driving with I think Harrison, my son, was 2 at the time. He was in the passenger seat. No, he was younger than that, and he was in a car seat. It was winter, and his mother was in the back seat. And we just slid into the oncoming traffic for no reason, black ice on Orchard Lake Road. And an oncoming car was T-boning straight at us, and I could see it all happening.
Oh my
and I remember saying, oh, this is going to be bad. And it was night, too. Yeah. And luckily, the next thing I remember, I was laying flat in the car looking at the ceiling because the seat collapsed. And the back end of the car, so the oncoming car hit the rear quarter. It was like a big Lincoln Town car. And spun the Jeep around, crushed the seats straight back, and I looked in the back of the car after we'd stopped, and all of the contents were gone, and the back hatch was gone, and Harrison's mother was 30 feet behind the vehicle laying in the snow.
My gosh.
Now, amazingly, nobody was seriously hurt, but the power of that car smashing and spinning it around, we weren't going very fast, but everything, coffee cups, books, whatever was in the car were jettisoned like it was an explosion, and she flew through the air 30 feet into the snow.
And no one was seriously. That's
no,
remarkable.
but I don't know how anybody survived. That's what I'm saying. It was really something. And even though I had a seatbelt on, I could barely walk for 2 weeks on that one. 2 Kent County men are in the hospital after snowmobile crashes. They were riding on 13 Mile Road near Fruit Ridge Avenue when they struck a culvert that was covered by a snowdrift. Ouch. The first man was thrown 30 feet. He's in serious condition at a local hospital. The second driver, not seriously hurt. They were going 50 miles per hour when they hit that by surprise. Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Steele is going to launch a fight to keep his job. Saul Anuzis from Michigan is one of the people challenging to be the National Republican Party chair. And when we get back, there is more news, and Kyle Malin from MERS News was there yesterday when Granholm and Snyder had a joint press conference. We'll hear about that. Gary Austin is the anchorman. I'm Michael Patrick Shields. We're all across Michigan with you on this Tuesday morning. Merry Christmas. It's Michael Patrick Shields, 23 minutes after the hour from the Gillespie Group storefront studio on the Avenue of Michigan, just a couple blocks from the Capitol. Kyle Malin is with us from MERS News. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
Amanda Wall's not in her normal seat, our producer, because she is out on the Avenue of Michigan. Gary Austin got us all excited talking about this meteor shower that's going on right now. Amanda Wall, what do you see and where are you?
I am standing right outside in front of our Gillespie Group storefront studio. And off to my left, you can see a very bright planet. I would have thought it was a star, but Kyle pointed out earlier that it's a planet. And other than that, it's pretty much black.
Okay, but there are clouds, or you can see the sky?
No, you can see completely the whole entire sky.
But you haven't seen a meteor?
Clouds at all.
You haven't seen a meteor, though?
I have not seen a meteor.
Oh.
I guess if I walk to the back of our building, I should be able to see one.
Because it's blocking your view?
Right.
That's astronomy for you. How about the roof? That would be a better spot, wouldn't it?
You want me to climb up onto the roof?
Well, if you can,
She might be able to see it that way.
that would be better. You know, that might help. Or just come on back in. What the heck?
I think I'll come back in.
Like-
It's a little cold out.
Yeah, okay. Well, look up because you're on camera right now, and apparently the camera for the sidewalk is the roof now. And you can wave as you come back in. Speaking of stars, it was unusual yesterday because we had 2 Monday Night Football games. One of them you could see, and one of them you couldn't. And the first one that we saw was here in Detroit, and the second one was a really good game. The problem is I couldn't stay awake, Kyle Malin, long enough to watch the end of the Monday Night Football game.
I couldn't either, if that's any benefit.
But you know what happened? It was a really good game between the Texans and the Ravens.
Who ended up winning?
When it went into overtime, and the Ravens won.
Oh, good. Did Anquan Bolden score the winning touchdown?
No, an interception return was winner. But
I
here's
needed
what
Bolden.
happened. I fell asleep while I was watching this fantastic game. And I was rewarded because I had a dream last night. I had a dream about Christina Aguilera.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That must be a great dream.
It was.
Oh, my.
So I didn't feel so badly about falling asleep in the Monday Night Football game because this dream was really funny. I went camping with Christina Aguilera. I was camping with her in some kind of very rustic cabin. And we decided that we were going to go canoeing. It was really, she was very pleasant, by the way.
You didn't tell your wife about this, did
No,
you?
no.
Oh, good for you.
I'm only telling you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
So there we were camping with Christina Aguilera in this very rustic cabin. And I wanted to take a shower, and I couldn't figure... No, I couldn't figure out how the water worked. And
I
apparently,
hate that when that happens, too, by the way.
Christina Aguilera was apparently very handy because she showed me how to turn on the hot water and everything. And I wasn't feeling very macho, but she knew her way around. So I took a shower, and we just had this nice chat, and then we were going to go in a canoe. So she got the canoe out, and she got in the canoe before me.
So you went from the shower to the canoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a dream.
Yeah, of course.
And she tipped over in the canoe. And
What
I
was she
had to-
wearing?
I had to jump in and save her.
What was she wearing? Oh.
Amanda says don't answer.
That's what I want to know.
And there were little tiny hammerhead sharks all around the canoe.
And you fought him off like a big stud, right?
That's right when I woke up.
Man.
So I missed out on Monday Night Football, but I did have a dream about Christina Aguilera.
Well, I think it was a fair trade, man.
I do too. I don't know why these things happen to me, but they do. You want to know what happened in Monday Night Football? You couldn't be there for my Christina Aguilera dream. It was Josh Williams returned a Matt Schaub interception, 12 yards for a touchdown in overtime. It was one of those, 34-28. The weird thing is the Texans were down 28-7, and that's when I fell asleep. and then they made a big charge to come back and ended up in overtime. So that was a pretty exciting game if you could stay awake. In Detroit, though, Brett Favre's NFL streak, 297 regular season games, came to an end. He couldn't play. His shoulder was busted up, and the Vikings lost, therefore, to the New York Giants, and the Vikings are out of the playoffs. The Jets strength and conditioning coach apologized. If you saw, he tripped a Miami Dolphin on punt coverage. The coach was on the sideline, and the Dolphin player was running by, and he couldn't resist, and he stuck his knee out and tripped him. He's been suspended, by the way. Pistons are on the court tonight. Atlanta Hawks at the Palace. And the Red Wings had the Los Angeles Kings in Detroit yesterday. And radio broadcaster Ken Kal was there.
Thanks, Michael Patrick. Jonathan Quick stopped 51 Detroit shots as the Los Angeles Kings shut out the Red Wings 5-0 last night at Joe Louis Arena. Wayne Simmons netted the lone goal in the opening period as he fired home his 5th goal of the season. Detroit outshot the Kings 27-10 in the middle frame, but couldn't put the puck behind Jonathan Quick. Oscar Moeller netted his first goal of the season, and after 40 minutes of play, the Kings led 2-0. The Kings scored early and often in the third. Anjay Kopitar scored twice, and Jack Johnson connected for Los Angeles as well. Johnson's goal came on the power play. Detroit outshot the Kings 51-26 in the contest. The final again, though, from Hockeytown, the Los Angeles Kings 5 and the Detroit Red Wings 0. That's the story from Joe Louis Arena. Now back to you, Michael Patrick, in the warm studios.
Yes, and Amanda Wall's back inside, too. Kyle Malin is with us from MERS News. Now, the Big Ten Conference has unveiled the names of the football divisions. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't.
These are the names. Michigan State, Michigan, Minnesota, Iowa, Northwestern, and Nebraska. That's our division. Mm-hmm. The Legends division.
Awesome. Awesome.
Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State, Purdue, Indiana, and Illinois are in the Leaders division. Now, I don't understand that. The winner, by the way, of the Big Ten championship game is going to get the Stag Paterno Trophy. And the conference has a new logo to represent the 12 teams. Why would you rather be in a legend or a leader?
I think I'd rather be a leader. I mean, legend makes it sound like you're a has-been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at first you thought legend was pretty cool, like
Yeah.
the legendary Michigan State Spartans. Mm-hmm. But now the other teams. And I thought Michigan was the leaders and best. So why wouldn't they be in the leaders division?
Well, at least we're in the same league as they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well.
So they can't bellyache about that.
So leaders and legends.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Also, some people have been so upset that Wisconsin is not going to the Rose Bowl that they bought some billboards. And on the billboard, they put the score of Michigan State 34, Wisconsin 24 to prove their point that Michigan State should be in the Rose Bowl. So you'll see those around the state. And I want to say my heartfelt condolences to 3 men from Manistee. Donnie Heinzer is 24 years old. Mark Saucy is 21, and Andy Monroe, 24. They left Manistee yesterday on these roads in wind and cold at 9 in the morning. You know where they were going? To downtown Detroit. They wanted to see a free NFL game. They wanted to see the Vikings and the Giants. And by the time they got there 6 hours later, all the tickets were gone.
No way.
So they
had to have gotten some from somebody.
No, they were left outside in the cold at Ford Field, according to the Detroit News. And they said they were disappointed because the Vikings are their favorite team. It's the first time they ever went to Ford Field, and they couldn't get in.
And they went on snowmobiles?
No, they drove there.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they would have gotten there faster on snowmobiles.
Yeah, they
though,
might have.
with the roads being what they are. So we'll make them our Northwood University leader of the day, so that they feel a little bit better. Because at least they took a chance. They invited themselves to the party.
Yeah.
To go on down there, and they were left out in the cold. Maybe they went. Who knows what they did with their time in Detroit? Hopefully they went to Lafayette, Coney Island, or maybe the casino or something like that.
I bet if they would have offered somebody $20 for their tickets, they could have gotten it.
Yeah, you would think. Like, who
Sure.
cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Leaders and legends were on display yesterday. I guess you could say it that way. If you want to call Rick Snyder the leader and Governor Granholm the legend because she's term limited, lame ducked out, and he's
Great segue.
elect on the way in. Thank you.
Very good segue.
Maybe one day I'll be able to qualify to write for MERS News with segues like that. But here you are on the television, and there they were in front of all of us. What was that like for the outgoing governor and the incoming governor?
Well, it is completely unusual, first of all, to see that kind of cooperation, to see them both on the same stage. This marks the second time now they've appeared together. Remember, Granholm shook his hand right after he won the election back in November. So this was very unusual, and it was very exciting, I think, for both Granholm and Snyder. I spoke with somebody from the Granholm administration over the weekend, and they were very giddy about this opportunity, that they're actually getting cooperation from a Republican. I mean, how unusual is that? I mean, in the past for her, I mean, her past history has been that no Republican wants to cooperate with her. Now she's got an incoming governor who would like to cut a deal on how the MEDC board, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation Board, is structured, and she's absolutely thrilled. They came to an agreement that I think benefits both of them in the long term. And obviously there were some very good feelings there on the stage yesterday.
Is Doug Rothwell the new hot commodity after all? He's going to be the acting chairman, I guess, of the MEDC and also run business leaders for Michigan, and he was on the transition team too. Is he getting his real true day in the sun now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the guy from Ann Arbor Sparks will be leading the entire MEDC board, but the short answer is yes. I mean, Doug Rothwell, was really one of the shining stars in the John Engler administration, and then when he got term limited out of office, there were other avenues for Doug, and he's done some of those, and I think he sees an opportunity to benefit the state, and he wants to hop back in it. I mean, he's not one to sit still, that's for sure. So he's very excited about getting back involved and has gotten Rick Snyder's ear.
Amanda, a woman from Olivet rang in a few minutes ago, and she saw the meteor, or one of the meteors.
Where was she looking? And
She's in Olivet. I don't know.
You want me to drive all the way to Olivet?
No, probably not. But
How far away is that?
I don't know. Well, it's not far because she was watching or listening. Thank you for that call from Olivet. So Gary Austin is he's justified in saying you can see a meteor if you go outside. Look toward the west, I guess is what the lady from Olivet said. There's some sniping going on the way out here, it seems like. The gossip is really starting to crank up, and I want to talk about that when we get back from the break. But first, the legislators are going to come back on Wednesday for one day, and it turns out.
Yeah, when they adjourned early in the morning, there are a few procedural things that they needed to do to wrap up legislation that individual senators actually, it's more the senators want to get accomplished. One in particular, Senator Wayne Kuipers, really wants to get this bill signed into law that would let 16-year-olds donate blood. Mm-hmm. He's named it after his daughter, Jenna, who got turned away from doing something like that when she was 16. She's no longer 16, but he's been trying to do this forever. Anyway, that's one of the bills that would be cut if they don't come back and approve an immediate effect vote.
That was the bill that we were on the phone that morning with Representative Moss. He was on the floor because they were still going at 6:30, and he was on the phone with us, and he says, I've got a chance to vote on something. He said, let's see, 16-year-olds can give... Yeah. He did it right on the air with us.
Yeah. That bill has been kicking around for a long time, but for various reasons, Senator Kuipers hasn't been able to get it through. That's one of them. Another key one, the School for the Deaf in Flint, a big project up there, needs an immediate effect vote in order to happen.
We'll be back with the sniping and the gossip. MERS News. Kyle Malin is with us, and some people are taking shots on their way out. You'll hear about it when we get back. It's Michael Patrick Shields. That's Karen Newman, the Red Wings singer. Christmas Eve on Woodward Avenue. There's probably black ice on Woodward Avenue, too, in Detroit there. Michigan's Christmas Carol. We're with Kyle Malin from MERS News, and I promised we'd talk about some of the gossipy things that are going on. We're going to talk to Lieutenant Governor Cherry a little bit later, but he's been pretty critical of the outgoing Speaker of the House, Andy Dillon, who is going to be the treasurer, right, in the new Republican administration. And he says in MERS News, quote, that Andy Dillon is not a team player and that he was not helpful. He was not part of the administration. He had his own role to play. He's a bright person who wanted to advance his own agenda. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that they were going to be opponents in the gubernatorial election in 2010 until John Cherry dropped out. I mean, that was going to be the heavyweight match. Was how are they going to work or not work together if they were both running for governor? Now, that didn't happen. But Andy Dillon did end up running for governor, and he did have his own vision of where he wanted to go, and it was not where the administration wanted to go. And it made things even tougher for Granholm to get her agenda through. I mean, not only did they have Senate Majority Leader Mike Bishop, who was throwing up stop signs every 10 feet, now you have Andy Dillon, who was not in the mainstream of his party necessarily. He was a bit right of the party. Going in his own direction, and I think that was frustrating for them.
I asked Kevin Elsenheimer yesterday, the outgoing Republican House leader, to comment on this John Cherry quotation. Here's what Kevin Elsenheimer said. Lieutenant Governor Cherry is also interviewed. He'll be with us in the coming days, too. He's already turned in his BlackBerry. He said he's ready to go. He's not interested in running for anything in the future. He's out of politics. And he basically chided Andy Dillon for not being a team player and not including the governor in discussion of health care reform. He says, quote, Andy Dillon was not helpful. He was not part of the administration. He had his own role to play. He's a bright person who wanted to advance his own agenda. That's a Democrat talking about a Democrat.
Well, I don't know what to say about that, but I'll tell you this. I've been in a lot of meetings with Andy Dillon, with the governor, with Mike Bishop. I can't remember over the last 2 years all but maybe one meeting where I saw John Cherry. And I like John Cherry. I think he's done great service for this state. But, I'm not here as an apologist for Andy Dillon, but I know Andy Dillon was trying to do what he thought was right. He and I disagreed, certainly, but I didn't see the participation from the Lieutenant Governor that would, I think, give him the perspective that apparently he said he has.
Well, that's pretty good, too, isn't it?
You know what? It reminds me of, when, let's say your wife comes home and she tells you stories about work, and she goes off on somebody in particular, and all of a sudden somebody becomes a bad guy. You know what I mean? And so then the husband, like me in this case, would now not like this person because you hear all the bad stories. And I wonder if there isn't a little of that going on. You know, John Cherry, okay, so maybe he's not in some of these talks. Maybe he's not in these quadrant meetings. But those things are kind of formal occasions, if you know what I mean. I mean, they come together, and they don't really get anything accomplished in those things. At least the last administration really hasn't gotten much out of those things. I mean, they're more, hi, how you doing? Yeah, I like this, I like that. Okay, goodbye, see ya. And maybe then John Cherry then hears the stories afterwards, or hears the frustrations from the governor and her people, and then all of a sudden kind of becomes the hatchet guy and says, golly, you know, this is really what's been going on. You know what I mean? And maybe the governor can't say this, but by golly, I'm going to say it because I've heard her frustrations over the years, and I know what it's been like.
Andy Dillon asked who he voted for governor after losing in the primary to Verge Bernero, and he says, I'll keep that private.
Yeah, punt.
He can't win really either way.
No, it's a story either way, because if he voted for Verge, then he voted against the guy who had appointed him.
Yeah.
And then if he voted for Rick Snyder, then it's like, well, then he didn't vote for the Democrat. We told you he's not really a Democrat, right? It's a no-win situation. It really is.
Fantastic. Now, what is this business? Governor Snyder says he wants the administration to, quote, sprint to accomplish incredible things in the first 6 months. Is he setting the bar dangerously high?
Yeah, he could be. But, you know, the other thing is, too, I mean, if you don't set it, let's say you set the bar 3 feet and you get to 3 feet. Is that better than setting the bar 10 feet and getting 7 feet?
Just
you know
ask
what I mean?
President Obama.
You know, well, look, yeah, I mean, though, if you think about it, he's accomplished some of his main things on the agenda.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say in his first 2 years he only got one thing done when he got 1, 2, 3, several things done. You know, and maybe it's the same thing with Rick Snyder. He also realizes, though, that the best time to get something done for a new governor is right away, the first 3 months, the first 6 months. That's when you can get the most things done, and especially with this brand new legislature coming in, 61 new people coming into the House. These people in the Senate have served in the House before, but you know, these are new, impressionable people. You can go ahead and sell your policy. You bring them in one by one, and you know, now maybe you can get legislation in now that you would have a harder time in a year and a half.
Is there a sense that, with only 40 seconds left, that right now, with the condition Michigan is in, being too critical of the new governor and his efforts is almost unpatriotic, if you know what I mean?
Well, you got to really see where he's going before you can criticize him too much. I mean, I think you really do got to give him at least a year to see if he can accomplish much. I mean, to get at him too quickly would, not probably be a team player and probably would be frowned upon.
Interesting. You can read about it in mirsnews.com. That's MIRS News.com. Kyle Malin is the editor. Thanks for so much time this morning.
Hey, it was my pleasure. Thanks, Michael Patrick.
Sure appreciate it. It's 14 now before the hour. The most liberal member of the House of Representatives joins us when we get back. Ten minutes before the hour, Michael Patrick Shields heard all across the state of Michigan. Governor Granholm coming just after the top of the hour. She was with Rick Snyder yesterday. Apparently, Bernie Madoff is not going to attend his son's funeral. He's going to have some sort of event, some sort of memorial at the prison in which he is incarcerated. There was some discussion about whether Bernie Madoff would be let out of the prison in order to go to his son's funeral. His son committed suicide, as the legislative and law enforcement ring seemed to be circling around him to find out what did he know about his father's doings and that kind of thing. Anyway, I wondered if you thought Bernie Madoff should be let out of prison to go to his son's funeral. 888-900-9966 is the number to call if you're interested in that. General Motors said it's going to offer $60,000 buyouts and early retirement packages to skilled trade workers at 14 plants because the automaker has about 3,000 more highly trained workers than it needs. It's the first time GM has used generous incentives to persuade hourly workers to leave the company since they emerged from bankruptcy last year. The Dow yesterday up 18, the Nasdaq lost 13, and the S&P gained just a fraction of the point. The Golden Globe nominees will be announced this morning at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll have reaction for you later this morning. Ricky Gervais is going to host the Golden Globes, the ceremony, on January 16th at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. And Dee Wallace Stone is 62 today. We say that because we never let the birthday of a beautiful woman pass without taking note. Remember her in Cujo. And Cynthia Gibb is 47 from Youngblood and the TV series Fame. Happy birthday, darlings, to you. Rebecca Warren, the state representative from Ann Arbor, the Democrat, has been named by MERS News the most liberal member of the House of Representatives based on her voting record, and she's on the other line with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, when did you realize that you'd been named the most liberal member of the House?
Well, I don't think any amount of time in advance of anybody else. I read it when it got published. Nobody talked to me about it first, so it was the surprise when I opened up my MERS News and had a chance to read through it, and there it was.
What was your reaction?
Well, several organizations do these surveys every year, and, I tend to be a progressive Democrat. I'm not afraid of labels, so I understand that I usually fall somewhere in the mix of the most progressive or the most liberal, depending on how they rate them. The thing that always makes it an interesting thing to me is each group sort of picks a group of votes that they want to analyze, decide what they think is the liberal or conservative position, and then they score people. I always think it's interesting what bills they pick, and every once in a while I even argue with them about whether the vote yes or no is actually liberal or conservative. So it's kind of an interesting, game that they play with what bills and what position is liberal versus conservative. So,
it was George Herbert Walker Bush who used to talk about the L word, and when he ran against Michael Dukakis, as if being liberal was a terrible thing, because that's how politics works. But what does it mean to you to be liberal?
Well, for me, I don't look at legislation when it comes before me, whether that's in committee or on the House floor, and think to myself, what is the liberal vote or what is a conservative or a moderate vote? I just don't see the world in that way. When what sort of drives me and draws me to this work is feeling like the decisions that I make every day are having an impact on real people. So I try to think about, the real-life implementation of what we're doing, that we don't legislate in a vacuum about, all these different wide range of things that we legislate on every week, but what's going to really make a difference? And so I think I err always on the side of things that I think are protective of people, of things that I think give our kids the best start in life, and things that I think that give our folks who are struggling or our seniors the most support when they need it. So to me, it's about putting people first and caring more about those kinds of outcomes.
Well, congratulations for sticking to your guns and for taking our call this morning. We sure appreciate it. And all the best to you, Representative Warren.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Merry Christmas indeed. That's Representative Rebecca Warren, the Democrat from Ann Arbor, who had the most liberal voting record. We will talk to the most conservative member of the House of Representatives, Representative Tom McMillan, next hour. George is in Battle Creek, ringing in at 888-900-9966. Good morning, George.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
What's cooking?
On this issue of Madoff staying or going to the funeral, I think he deserves what he's got. He's there. It shouldn't be treated as a hotel where he can be unlocked whenever he wants to leave for some family emergency or situation.
Okay, Bernie Madoff stays in the hole despite his son's funeral, according to George in Battle Creek. Our number is 888-900-9966. 99-66. Larry King, it's his last week yesterday. He was with Conan O'Brien as one of his final guests. Here's a little bit of what that sounded like.
I wanted to go out of our way to not do anything from the past, to send the signal that we are going to use this as an opportunity to try new things and to try and reinvent ourselves. I give that another 2 weeks.
That's Conan O'Brien, who it says also in the final clip here, he still hasn't even spoken to Jay Leno.
No, I haven't, spoken. I don't think I'll be hearing from him. I'm not gonna, and there's nothing really for either of us to talk about.
Tony, let's close the hour out with that Christina Aguilera music, if you don't mind. My dream last night when I fell asleep watching Monday Night Football was that I was camping with Christina Aguilera. So I missed the football game, but what a dream. 3 minutes before the hour. Governor Granholm, when we get back, it's Michael Patrick Shields. Good morning, Michigan. Michael Patrick Shields with you, and outgoing Governor Jennifer Granholm, the Democrat from Michigan, a national star, and for 8 years has been our governor, is with us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
Well, what was your finest hour, you think? We'll borrow that Winston Churchill line there. What do you think?
Well, the thing I would say that I'm most proud of is not just 1 hour, but really a concerted, very focused, researched effort to lay a foundation for a new Michigan economy. You know, we've been working for 8 years to add new sectors to our economy, to diversify it, and to educate our citizens by raising the standards, making adult training and education available through No Worker Left Behind. So I'm very proud of the work that has been done to lay a foundation for a new Michigan economy.
How interested will you be in watching what happens over the next months and years?
Oh, I'm going to be fascinated, of course, because I'm a Michiganian. I want to make sure that the state is successful. Yesterday, we had a terrific press conference with the governor-elect and myself announcing a new executive board for the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. This was a joint appointment. There's 20 people on that board, and we collaborated on who we think is going to be important to help lead our economic development efforts into his administration. The great, I think, news from that is not only is it a sign of bipartisan cooperation, but he obviously wants to make sure that we continue to be successful in the sectors that we have added, such as clean energy. We appointed people like Anne-Marie Sastry, who is the CEO of a company that's an advanced battery company for the electric vehicle. We appointed Jeff Metz, who is really breaking ground in the new wind industry. So it was a great day yesterday to signify what's going to happen for the future of Michigan. But we all recognize that we have not arrived where we want to be yet. There's a lot of work left to do, and I would just say to those who are listening that, you know, in the same way that I wasn't given a magic wand to deal with the structural changes in our state's economy, these are long-term efforts, these are strategic efforts. He won't be able to fix it overnight either, but clearly we are emerging from this recession with an economy that's more diverse and a citizenry that's more well-educated.
I'm glad you brought that up because Governor-elect Snyder is saying that he is going to, quote, sprint to accomplish incredible things in the first 6 months of his administration. Is he setting the bar too high when he says something like that, or do you think the climate is there for him to be able to do things like that?
Well, I do think that we are emerging from this recession in a strong position, and that he can take advantage of that. However, I think that what he's referring to is restructuring what he thinks needs to happen in order to achieve the results that we'd like to see. But the results themselves, which is to have an unemployment rate at the level of the national average or below, hopefully, that's going to take some time. It's not going to happen in 6 months. And so I would caution anybody, him, his followers, et cetera, not to raise expectations about the results. You can certainly raise expectations about what you intend the inputs to be, but the outputs are going to take some time.
What do you make of him?
I like him. I think, you know, I mean, obviously I'm a Democrat and I voted for Mayor Bernero, but I think that he's setting the right tone. He's appointing people who are pragmatists, not overtly partisan. I think he wants to be a problem solver. So I'm encouraged for Michigan. And, we're going to be handing him a $400 million surplus in the year that we are in, which is terrific because he won't have to come in and cut in the middle of the budget year that we are into. And our unemployment rate now has outperformed the national average in the sense that, not that it's better than the national average, but in terms of its drop, we have dropped 3 times faster than the national average. It's the first year this year that we've actually created private sector jobs in Michigan for the entire decade. So he's heading into, I think, a situation that is set up for him to succeed, and I'm very bullish on Michigan's future.
It's ironic. If you had been in Las Vegas midway through your second term and they asked you to put money down on who would succeed you, he probably wouldn't have even showed up on the board.
Yeah, it is interesting, but I think it signals that, people, obviously he was well-financed and all of that, and I think that having a primary in his case helped him because there were people who were duking it out, and he emerged. But I think that symbolically, having somebody who is willing to be bipartisan and reasonable, pragmatic, compromising, I think that's a good thing for Michigan.
What do you make of the fact that he ran as an outsider and now seems to be reaching into the Engler administration to populate his administration?
Well, I mean, you have to be able to tap the talent that has been around, and the last Republican administration was the Engler administration that was there for 12 years. So obviously you're not going to get away from that entirely, and he does need to have some seasoned hands on deck to be able to hit the ground running like he wants to do. So, that's not a bad thing at all. But I think what's really great, in my opinion, is that he comes into office with some really good civil servants who are phenomenal, who have been members of our team too, that have tried to, and I mean our team in terms of governing the state, not our team in terms of Democratic Party, but who have really been focused on our efforts to diversify and to educate our citizens and making sure that we have a safety net as we transition from an old Michigan economy to a new Michigan economy. So yesterday we had these announcements about the MEDC, and just quickly, the MEDC since 2003 has been able to attract over 3,900 business expansions just in this 8-year period, 3,900. And those business expansions are projected to create 653,000 jobs over the next few years. So, and these are in new sectors. So we come out of this recession with a much more diverse economy. Now, that's terrific for the future of Michigan. And then we raised all of these standards for education. Every child now in Michigan is taking a college prep curriculum in high school, and there was all this fear that would cause the dropout rate to increase. But in fact, the dropout rate has gone down. Test scores in every grade in math and science are rising since we adopted these new standards. We've got a 70% increase in AP test takers, advanced placement course test takers in high school. We got a 35% increase in enrollment in community colleges. All of those are great indicia for the future success of Michigan.
So for the most part, he resisted criticizing you during the entire election process. And on Inauguration Day, is it like in Washington? Does he come to the residence and have tea, and then you all drive over to the Capitol and that sort of thing?
I don't think he's coming here first. I think he's coming here after, but we're out by then. So, in terms of the residents, but it is obviously a great symbol of the transition of power that I'll be there to sort of hand the baton to him and wish him well, and then I get to leave.
Do you get to get in a helicopter and fly over the Capitol one more time?
I wish it were that simple, but shortly thereafter, Dan and I are going to take a little break, a little vacation.
That's what I heard. A little bit of beach time would be awfully good, and then a lot of time
for that margarita on the beach.
Yeah, and a lot of time with your family. And that's fantastic. And a lot of people are going to be asking you, of course, when you're done with all that, what do you want to do next? Any clue yet? Any offers? Any ideas?
Well, I'm going to talk about that in January.
Okay.
So I'll keep you posted.
So maybe that margarita will give you some clarity on where you're going next.
Well, I have a pretty good idea, but
Do you?
The margarita will certainly make the beach experience real.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fully enjoy it. I'm going to bring my books I haven't been able to read, and I'm excited about that.
Have you read your husband's book yet, Be Real?
I have read my husband's book. What a great book it is.
And what about your favorite talk show host's book, Invite Yourself to the Party? Have you read that
You know,
one yet?
when we were at your book signing, you didn't have a copy of it there yet, so I haven't even seen a copy of it yet.
Oh, dear God, I'm
you
mortified.
Gotta get me one, man.
I'm so embarrassed, and you can take it on the beach with... No.
Exactly. You got to sign it, though.
All right, I'll bring it to the residence today, I promise.
Well, you don't have to be that expeditious, but thank you.
That's how I
thanks
roll.
so much over the years for having me on, allowing me to have access. I really wish all of your listeners a fabulous holiday season, and just to let them know that we're going to be all right. I know that we've had a lot of battles, meaning me and the legislature, over the past years, but in the end, they got 80% of the things done. We achieved 80% of the things that I proposed. So even though there were battles, we have made progress. And, for those who haven't agreed with everything that I've done, please know that I've done this out of sheer love for this fabulous state of ours. Merry Christmas.
We're very excited for you. Merry Christmas to you, and we'll see you at the inaugural.
All right, very good.
All
Thanks.
the best to Governor Jennifer Granholm. It's 17 after the hour. 8 years with Governor Granholm. Very sincere, very accessible. The governor of the state of Michigan. "25 minutes after the hour, Michael Patrick Shields. Merry Christmas to you, and drive safely wherever you may be traveling to today. The poor fellas from Manistee, Michigan. We should probably call one of these guys, shouldn't we, Amanda? They drove all the way from Manistee in that weather yesterday to go to Detroit and go to Ford Field and watch the game between the New York Giants and the Minnesota Vikings. And they got all the way there after a 6-hour drive, and there were no tickets left. And they got left out in the cold. Donnie Heinzer, Mark Saucy, and Andy Monroe, they're all in their 20s, and they said, what the heck, let's invite ourselves to the party. And they left Manistee at 9 in the morning and made a couple of stops, and then they got to Ford Field, and there were no more tickets, so we feel badly for them. They had a good time, I think. I don't know what they did, so we're going to try to reach out to one of those guys and figure out how they made the most of it. Maybe on the way they saw one of these billboards that are going up now. Michigan State fans have some marketing hype behind the sentiment that Michigan State should be in the Rose Bowl and not Wisconsin. Billboards are turning up on major freeways that have the final score of the game between Michigan State and Wisconsin. Michigan State 34, Wisconsin 24. And that's a big point, that Michigan State ought to be in Pasadena and not Wisconsin. After all, we had the same record, we were tied, but we beat Wisconsin. And instead, Wisconsin goes to the Rose Bowl because of the BCS rankings and plays Texas Christian. What's Texas Christian doing in the Rose Bowl? We could have had, it would have been a great Rose Bowl. Michigan State versus Ohio State, because they never played, and they finished with the same record. And Ohio State played Wisconsin, and Michigan State played Wisconsin, but Michigan State never played Ohio State to complete that sort of round robin, and they all finished with the same records, tied. That would have been a game. And the Rose Bowl would have had 2 Big Ten teams instead of TCU. What are they doing in the Rose Bowl? By the way, the new Big Ten pairings are out. We know the pairings, which team is going to be in which division for football, but the names of the divisions have been released. The Legends division is what they're going to call Michigan State, Michigan, Minnesota, Iowa, Northwestern, and Nebraska. The Legends division. Now that sounds pretty good till you find out the other division, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State, Purdue, Indiana, and Illinois, is the Leaders division. Now, would you rather be a leader or a legend? And if Michigan is the leaders and best, how come they're not in the Leaders division? And Joe Paterno's name is going to be on the Big Ten Championship trophy. Stagg Paterno Trophy. Amos Alonzo Stagg and Joe Paterno. I think those are the 2 winningest coaches of all time, aren't they? Or I know Bear Bryant's up there too. But anyway, Joe Pa is going to have his name. And there's a new logo because they have 12 teams. Speaking of that game in Detroit yesterday, Brett Favre couldn't play. His shoulder kept him out of the game. So his streak of 297 consecutive regular season starts will stay right there. And it all ended in Detroit, and the Giants beat the Vikings 21-3, and the Vikings are eliminated from postseason play. On the real Monday Night Football game, boy, this was a great game. At first, you thought that the Ravens were just going to demolish the Texans because they were leading 21-0, and they even had a lead of 28-7 at one stage. But the Texans came storming back in all red uniforms at home and went to overtime, and it was an interception return for a touchdown that ended the overtime as the Baltimore Ravens beat the Texans yesterday. If you couldn't stay up late enough to watch it, I tried so hard to stay up late last night and watch that game. I think I made it to halftime when I drifted off to sleep, and everybody knows what happened then. While I was disappointed, I was fighting. I was keeping my eyes open to try to watch the end of the game, and I ended up having a dream about Christina Aguilera. She and I were camping in this dream and canoeing, and she was very handy around the cabin. She could fix things up and get the hot water heater going, and there were hammerhead sharks below the canoe. I don't know what to make of it. And the canoe tipped over and she fell in. Did I get bad clams last night? I did cook dinner last night. Maybe I went too heavy on the spices. Anyway, would you rather have Monday Night Football or Christina Aguilera in a dream? You make the call. Thank you very much. Let's cool things off with the Red Wings score yesterday. They were on ice yesterday at downtown Detroit at Joe Louis Arena with the Los Angeles Kings and radio broadcaster Ken Kal. It was not a dream game, was it?
Thanks, Michael Patrick. Jonathan Quick stopped 51 Detroit shots as the Los Angeles Kings shut out the Red Wings 5-0 last night at Joe Louis Arena. Wayne Simmons netted the lone goal in the opening period as he fired home his 5th goal of the season. Detroit outshot the Kings 27-10 in the middle frame, but couldn't put the puck behind Jonathan Quick. Oscar Moeller netted his first goal of the season, and after 40 minutes of play, the Kings led 2-0. The Kings scored early and often in the third. Anze Kopitar scored twice, and Jack Johnson connected for Los Angeles as well. Johnson's goal came on the power play. Detroit outshot the Kings 51-26 in the contest. The final again, though, from Hockeytown, the Los Angeles Kings 5 and the Detroit Red Wings 0. That's the story from Joe Louis Arena. Now back to you, Michael Patrick, in the warm studio.
Toasty here in our Gillespie Group storefront studio, just a couple of blocks from the Capitol, and we're going to talk with Rick Snyder, the man who will be the incoming governor coming up shortly. He'll be with us, and outgoing governor, Lieutenant Governor John Cherry will be with us too. The Pistons are on the court tonight hosting the Atlanta Hawks at the Palace. Now, the man who is, earlier we spoke to State Representative Rebecca Warren, the Democrat from Ann Arbor. She was voted by MERS News. Actually, they looked at her voting record and determined that she was the most liberal member of the House of Representatives. Right now, the other side of the coin, Representative Tom McMillan, the Republican from Rochester Hills, the most conservative member of the House of Representatives, according to MERS News. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael.
Well, should I say congratulations?
Sure. I didn't. When I was hitting the red button, usually in the Democrat-controlled House, I didn't have any intention of scoring. Worrying about my scoring. You're just trying to do the right thing.
So when it comes down to a vote like that, do you think about the way your party is voting, or do you think about what's best for your constituents, or do you think about what it feels like in your judgment and heart?
Yeah, I mean, I try to make sure that I vote what's right. I think there's not a lot of gray. I mean, a lot of what we do, especially, like I said, when there's Democrat-controlled House, is are we taking away freedom? Are we, breaking contract law? Or are we preserving it? And, there's, like I said, you try and boil it down to right and wrong, and that's how I vote.
So at that moment, do you think that people elected you for your judgment and your values, or to represent what you think they would want you to do when it comes to a vote?
My value and judgment. I mean, I've got to sleep at night, and, I cannot vote against my conscience. I guess some people can, but I can't. And so if they don't like how I'm voting, if they don't like who I am at my core, then they'll vote me out.
What does it mean to be a conservative in your mind? Obviously, you are very conservative based on your voting record.
Well, it's to preserve liberty, to make sure that the government is not imposing itself. And a lot of the things I voted no on were issues that would people would say are consumer protection, that instead of buyer beware, we want government protect us. And, that has implications of higher costs and less freedom. And so, I think that it's really, and also the social conservative. I'm very socially conservative as well. So, trying to protect the unborn, preserve traditional marriage, those kind of things as well.
Mm-hmm. You edged out, you stopped Dave Agema from having a twofer there. He was the most conservative representative in 2009, and you edged him out. Yeah, he was trying to be the repeat champion. Have you talked to him yet?
I haven't. I'll see him later today, and he's a tremendous asset and great legislator. And, we often collaborate. Myself, Agema Amash, who I'll miss very much, but I'm glad he's going to Congress. Justin, I have the highest regard for, and so we would often, talk about some of the votes that were coming up and make sure that we were, seeing all angles before we vote.
All right, well, welcome back to town. I know you're coming back Wednesday for one day. That fills a lot of people with some chagrin, but travel safely when you get here, and we'll see you down here at the Capitol. Tom McMillan, who is the most conservative member of the House of Representatives last year. Now, there's been all sorts of action going on with the business leaders for Michigan and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And we get back after this break. We'll talk to David Juice, the president and chief executive officer of CMS Energy and Consumers Energy, and the Business Leaders for Michigan Summit was yesterday. We'll get a recap from him in 4 minutes. My name is Michael Patrick Shields. Nice to meet you, and glad to have you with us here this morning on radio and television all across Michigan. Happy to be joined this morning by David Juice. He is the president, chief executive officer of CMS Energy and the CEO of Consumers Energy. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
I'm glad we were playing that Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree there, because I'm a kind of guy, when I get home, I like to have all the lights on, the Christmas lights, and sometimes I even like to leave them on outside on a Sunday, just to have them on even during the day. Is that going to cost me a lot of money to run the Christmas lights?
Not a lot. We have reasonably good electric rates here in Michigan, so go ahead and celebrate the season.
How much do you think it would cost for an average-size house, if you can estimate that sort of thing, to run the Christmas lights?
I have to do some math. I'm an engineer, but it would take me a few minutes to do a little math here. I would guess probably about 3 cents an hour.
3 cents an hour.
Yeah,
so
not very expensive.
I'd have to add it up for the whole. That's worth it, I think. Don't
you could do it for a couple bucks a week.
Okay. Then no, I don't feel so badly about it anymore then. I'm just going to go right on through. I'm going to leave the lights on until the Lions win another football game. That's risky, isn't it?
They're playing pretty well this year, I think. The record doesn't show it, but the defense looks pretty good.
Well, let's hope that the record shows 1 year from now that Michigan's doing a lot better. You got together with Business Leaders for Michigan, 400 of them, in fact, common sense reforms for a new Michigan. And what do you think some of the glaring, obvious common sense reforms are from your standpoint?
Well, it's really pretty straightforward. Common sense is the kind of things we all look at and say, yeah, that makes sense. So if you've got a state that has a structural deficit of $1.5 billion going into the next fiscal year, and you're spending more than you have, then you should spend less. That seems to be common. And we've got to take a look at how we manage our budgets and do it over a longer time frame. We can't just push bills from 1 year to the next and solve our long-term problems. So that's the first one, getting fiscal situation in order. Second one is we don't have enough jobs in Michigan. We're not creating jobs. In fact, we're losing jobs, and we're not competitive. So when business leaders outside of Michigan, or even those within Michigan for that matter, look at where they're going to put their next facility, we've got to be more competitive. And right now, we're one of the highest business tax states in the union. We've got regulations that create too much red tape. And so we've got to take a look at how can we be more competitive. And then thirdly, what should we be investing in? And all of the studies would tell you that higher education and infrastructure for transportation are very essential, along with investing in core cities. And frankly, we've underinvested in all of those things. So we spent some time yesterday talking about some very specific things we can do that, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out these are things we've got to address if we're going to get back on track here.
Rick Snyder, the right man for the job?
I tell you, the guy is a very bright guy. He's a fellow who has business experience, and while the government is a bit different, obviously, these common sense things are the same things businesses have to do to be successful, and he's got a proven track record. So in an environment where jobs and the economy are the issue for Michigan, I think he is the right guy.
All right, we'll be talking with him in about 10 minutes, and we thank you very much. We'll hope we'll talk again soon.
Well, thank you very much for having me on this morning.
Thank you very much. A leader in the state of Michigan, David Juice, the president and chief executive officer of CMS Energy. Another leader, Secretary of State Terry Lynn Land, who is serving the end of her term as a Secretary of State. Good morning to you and Merry Christmas.
Hey, good morning, Michael. How you doing?
Good. I saw yesterday a little survey that showed that Senator Stabenow would barely edge out most of her opponents if the election were today. That's with no campaigning and no announced candidates. You were on the list, though. Are you thinking of running maybe for U.S. Senate?
That's why I always like talking to you early in the morning. I want to know what's on your mind, Michael. And I'll tell you, last night I was in Holland at Pete Hoekstra, Congressman Hoekstra's farewell party from Congress, and a lot of folks there talking about him running for U.S. Senate. And, he just came off a gubernatorial race and had a lot of issues that he dealt with in Congress. And I think, there's a lot of good candidates out there, with Pete being one of them. We'll have to look. Obviously, we were successful as Republicans in Michigan over this last election, so there's a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of folks wanting to take back those Senate seats.
Were you surprised to find that you were on my mind this morning?
No, not at all. It's always good to be on your mind, Michael.
Thank you very much. We want to just salute you. I know we'll probably talk again before the inaugural, but congratulations on what you have done to sort of streamline the Secretary of State's office and make it a much more efficient and pleasant experience for all of us. What are you most proud of?
Well, definitely being able to bring the services to our citizens in Michigan, for the lowest cost and with the smallest amount of government resources needed, and to still deliver great customer service. And we've proven that it can be done. And I also, truly appreciate my wonderful staff and employees at the Secretary of State's office, because they had a lot of changes. When I came in, a lot of them looked at me a little bit like, are you sure that will work? And, they couldn't see how having less offices and different ways of doing business would actually save the customers time and money, but it did. And when we were done, I'm very proud of them. Like I said, they went through a lot of changes. A lot of them had to move, take different jobs, consolidate their jobs, and, that's the future. I heard you talking a little bit about our incoming governor, Rick Snyder, and I think that's what he's talking about, too, is you got to really look at how we do business, change things, move things around, and be able to deliver those services, but at a efficient cost.
You got a vacation on the horizon?
Yeah, I sure do. My husband and I are going to go to Florida for a couple of weeks. It'll be the first time I've done 2-week vacation in 10 years.
Wow. Well, put your toes in the sand and have a drink and think of me, and we'll see you when you get back.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All the best to the outgoing Secretary of State, Terry Lynn Land. We should actually play her off with the Willie Nelson song, You Are Always on My Mind. Wouldn't that be nice? Was that too flirty? I don't know. I like her. Good luck in Florida. Have a great time, you and your husband. Rick Snyder is next. It's Michael Patrick Shields. Great to have you with us this morning, and nice to meet you if you're watching or listening for the first time. My name is Michael Patrick Shields, and he is the governor-elect of the state of Michigan, Rick Snyder. Merry Christmas, and nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Michael Patrick. Good to catch up.
Yeah, I'm sure that after the election night that you were busy with your foot on the gas, sort of doing all the transition issues and what have you. How do you think the process has gone? Has it gone smoothly?
Yeah, it's gone well. We still have a lot of work to do, but we've made good progress. I'm very pleased with the announcements we've been able to make, and it's an exciting team of people because it's really a team effort, but it's coming together well.
Will you wear a tie to the inaugural?
Yes.
Okay.
I will answer that clearly for you. It's going to be a cold day, but looking forward to it. Steps to the Capitol.
I spoke with Governor Granholm earlier, and she talked very kindly about you. But do you mind when she says things like, "I've set the stage for economic growth in Michigan"? Does that bother you at all?
No, because it's time about people working together and not worrying about credit or blame or any of that kind of stuff. It's about showing results and progress, and I appreciate the governor's efforts. She worked hard over the last few years. to do her best for Michigan. And then we actually had a joint press conference yesterday, and I think that was a good signal to people that people can work together.
Yeah, that kind of cooperation, not only between an outgoing governor and an incoming governor, but a Democrat and a Republican, is, I think, don't you, the kind of thing that people really want to see?
I do, and that's why I was very pleased that she was great about, talking about that and doing that together. So that was a team effort there in terms of saying, how do we, look forward to the MEDC being the most effective, efficient organization possible. And so she reappointed or appointed 10 people to the board. I announced 10 people I will appoint after January 1st, and that was a great way to do things.
It was interesting, too, because if I'm not mistaken, and even on this program, you went through the entire primary process and general election without directly criticizing Governor Granholm by name. Isn't that true?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that because, again, it's not about, talking about the past or, putting blame on people or doing any of those kind of things, because it's about getting results and working together and creating that environment for success. And again, she's worked hard over the last 8 years. There's been a lot of great public servants. We just need to keep pushing harder and solving problems and bringing people together, and that's what I'm focused on.
It's interesting. I see you quoted here as saying that you want to, quote, sprint to accomplish incredible things in the first 6 months of your administration. That's kind of a bold thing to say, isn't it? I mean, you're setting the bar awfully high.
Well, that was one of the things actually in that same talk. It doesn't look like it made the press, but actually I had a discussion with people about saying there's an interesting paradox going on, that I've been getting a lot of feedback from people about being bold. And they say, you got to be bold, you got to be bold. And at the same time, the next time I'll talk to them, they say, expectations are getting too high.
Yeah.
And so part of the talk I gave that had that quote was, it's interesting to show how, we're really looking at this as a new, exciting challenge, because it's both on one hand, people want to be bold, but at the same time, they're saying, boy, this is setting high expectations. And my view is, let's just go for it. Let's get this done.
So it sounds to me like you're not enamored with the political side of governing. And you know what I mean by that is having an advisor whisper in your ear saying, careful, don't promise too much.
No, my view is we're in serious trouble. We've been in trouble for over a decade, and we're going to go solve some problems and show results to people. And as I said during the campaign, it's not about credit, it's about results. So I want anyone to claim credit that's part of the process.
How do you feel about the fact that, you worked so hard to get elected, you came from behind, you got the gig, and your life really, how has it changed?
Well, it's getting used to a lot of those changes because it is a new world, and, there are a lot of new things for me to learn, but I love to learn. I mean, that's the good part about being a nerd. The other challenges are just from the family side, because it's a lot of stress, in terms of the family. We had a very solid, consistent life, and this puts a lot of variables in that during the holiday season, for example. So it's somewhat challenging, and that's one reason we made the decision to stay in Ann Arbor was for our daughter, because it's a lot already going on, and when you're in high school, that can be a big challenge. So we want to make sure she has the best opportunity to be successful.
What percentage would you say is listening versus leading when you're the governor?
Oh, there's a large listening percentage, but it's also leading. It would be hard to put percentages on that because it varies by topic. But one of the keys is, one of the expressions I like to use is, I've never learned anything when I was talking.
Yeah. Well, I hope that in the midst of all this work, and obviously you've had your nose to the grindstone already, you're ready to go. You said, in fact, that you're fired up, that you'll enjoy the process too, and through the holiday, and the inaugural will be very special. And I hope it's I hope we get Indian summer on January 1st. How's that sound?
That would be great, and I am enjoying this because it is the right thing to do. So we're going to stay consistent. I am fired up. And it's time for Michiganders to rally, and let's reinvent this place.
We're looking forward to the shock and awe in the first 6 months, and thank you for being accessible, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
It's great talking with you. Merry Christmas.
You too. All the best to Rick Snyder, who will be inaugurated on the 1st of January at noon on the steps of the Capitol. He will live in Ann Arbor, as you heard him say, to stay with his family and commute back and forth. Lots of people do that. Television, thank you for being with us. We will see you tomorrow. Radio listeners, stay right where you are.